Welcome to the Three Parallels Podcast with your host, Dr. Jason Branch, where we discover who we were, who we are, and who we are becoming. And today's guest, oh my goodness, I got a surprise for y'all. Today's guest, to me, exemplifies greatness and doesn't know it yet. This person takes humility to a whole nother level. I got this background, hello, hustler, because of this person that's on the show, because she's a hustler. She does a multitude of different things on different levels and is great at everything that she does. One thing specific that I have to shout out, which is part of the reason I bring in Amber to the show, is the connection to NBCC. So the National Board of Certified Counselors is an organization that is dear to my heart because I serve as a fellow, MFP fellow from 2016. And if it wasn't for NBCC, I wouldn't be here today and I wouldn't be able to have this podcast. So NBCC changed my life. And to me, Amber is the heart or the glue to me. I can't speak for nobody else, but the glue or heart to NBCC. So anything related to NBCC, Amber Khan is your person. Now, this person, Amber, is a gem, is a jewel, and she's going to share things with you all that could possibly change your life if you allow it to. Everyone has a story, and I love people sharing their stories. And this is one of the stories that you'll hear that could possibly change your entire life. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to introduce you all to Miss Amber Khan. Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Dr. Branch. Oh my. Wow. What an introduction. So I really appreciated, what you said about just your connection to NBCC and the fellowship. And I think it's been transformative, to say the least, for so many people. And just really truly life-changing. And I think in a way that it's still unfolding. We're still trying to grasp, just the depth of what it means to be a part of this program. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for having me on the show. I am excited for what you're going to do with this, because this is you're really stepping into a space that is going to bring just genuine, and just knowing you, just bring really genuine conversations into the space. And there are so many moments that I think all of us have where we're having just conversations with colleagues and loved ones, and we're like, this would be a great podcast episode. so here we are. So
Yes.
thank you for doing this and just your leadership and what you're bringing to the space. And I have the same level, if not more, respect for, all you've done. You are the true hustler. I mean, really, really just admire all the different areas and industries that you have been in, and just all that you've accomplished. So thank you for, again, the space and just doing this. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. And yes, this show is a conversation. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to have. And I agree with you. Like, there's often times where you have a conversation and it's like, man, I wish people could hear what we just discussed. And today we get an opportunity to do that. So I'm curious to know, like, everybody can't do NBCC. Everybody can't be a part. Everybody doesn't get selected. Everyone doesn't have that passion, that energy to do that work. So I'm curious, how did you get involved and what made you decide I'm finna be a part of NBCC, but not just be a part, but to make an impact and influence because of your ideas and what you do and how you just put things together. How did this start? I would love to hear your journey.
Yep. Thank you. That is a good question. It's something that I think I revisit just on my own and just with colleagues. I like remind myself, this is year whatever each year as I've been there at NBCC. I'm like, oh, this is, and I'm still here in this space, in this counseling space, in this capacity. And so for me, my journey with the organization started in 2017. I was in doing, I think, for 1 year into my doctoral program. And so our headquarters is actually in Greensboro, North Carolina, central North Carolina, which isn't the case for a lot of, other organizations, especially national level organizations. They tend to be like in the DC area. So I just happen to be here where our national headquarters, they're right here in my hometown in Greensboro. and that's also where I was doing my PhD. And I there what was then called NBCC International. That is where I did a graduate assistantship, and so that was really the starting point for me. And I am a first generation immigrant, so I am also very much a North Carolinian. I've spent several decades here in North Carolina, but I definitely identify a lot with my immigrant identity and my culture, especially in the last 2 decades of my life. So I think it's just, traveling and just having that connection through family that's really strengthened my identity and just feeling more comfortable with coming into that space, comparing to like when I first moved to this country. So I think just feeling more comfortable, in that space of who I am and just my cultural background. So that's really what brought me to NBCC, is just being here and just
Mhm.
having the opportunity to come in at an assistantship level, and just staying here past that point and getting into a different area of the organization. And I think when I finished my PhD, I kind of just had, gut feelings. You kind of go with gut feelings, and it's just like, I don't know. I'm just not feeling that I'm wanting to get into academia right then and there. I just knew, in 2019, I was like, nope, I don't think this is what I'm going to get into right now. So that's where I just, went with the gut feeling. I didn't pursue academia, and I just decided to stay on the more administrative side of the profession. And it's worked out. And I think every area that I've been in at NBCC, it's just been really, really great. Just a really great compliment to the skills that I've gained at the doctoral level. So they've definitely come into use here at the organization. So I went from the international area to the assessments part of the organization, and then I landed in foundation, which where I am now, I feel like it just feels like me because of also because of a lot of the engagement that I've had in the nonprofit space for a long, long time. So this has just really fit and fallen right into place
Mm.
on the foundation side. So that's kind of my journey. Now I'm going into my 8th year, so it's been a minute. Yeah, yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I apologize. I think I introduced you as Mrs. I apologize, Dr. Amber Khan,
Oh,
and I will make those corrections and go back. My apologies for that. And I appreciate you sharing your story. I want to hear more because everybody doesn't just go out and get a PhD. And everybody doesn't not only get a PhD, but decide I'm not doing what academia wants me to do by working in it. I want to do what I want to do. So if you could share with us the journey, even being coming to the States early on and then just deciding like this is what I want to do. So let's go back. You talked about culture, your background. Let's get a little more detail for the listeners of your transition to the States and just moving through academia to get to where you are now.
yeah. So I came as a child, so that's really kind of where it was all kind still me trying to put the pieces together what that means. I think anyone who comes to this country, even as a child, and even as you try to make sense of where you lived, your childhood, and then where you are. I'm still trying to figure that out. Honestly, I think we all are. Aren't we all trying to figure out where it
Absolutely.
all started
Absolutely.
and how we ended up here? So I think that piece of it was it was easier, I think, in a sense, just because I was younger. And so, I share this now. I think I share this now very confidently, maybe not so much when I was a teen, but now I'm like, you know what? English was a second language for me. So there you go.
Mhm.
It was
Yes.
a second language for me. And
Yes.
that's okay. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
And I think, when you go through the different phases of your life, you still try to navigate what it means to
Mhm.
really come into your identity. And I think the profession really pushes us to do that. The counseling profession really makes you look at yourself real good. It does. We look
Yes.
at right. We look at our
Absolutely.
ethics, we look at our identity, we look at all these things. And so part of this has also been the profession has really, my training has really pushed me to do that too a little bit more. But yeah, I think that piece of it was easier just because I was younger.
Mhm.
And but again, I'm in the South, so there's nowhere you can really go growing up here in North Carolina that you're not going to be reminded that you are an immigrant, in some way,
Mm.
shape, or form.
Yeah.
So even if you can speak the language, even if you can whatever, that it's still very much a core part of your identity, that you are from a different background. So I think that's been just a lifelong thing that I've had to get used to, but I think a lot of people have had to get used to just in this country in general. Um, you have to really know that that's just part of our experience in this country is that, we have differences and then also obviously finding that common ground. So yeah,
Okay. So,
yeah.
because of the nature of this show, we go deep, and when we go deep, what that looks like is going to the basement. So sometimes we gotta spend some time in the basement, and what you're sharing is a basement feeling, emotion, connection, and for a lot of listeners from different parts of the country, different parts of the world, um, they may not know what that's like. They may not know the ins and outs of navigating this country as a person of color, as someone who migrated here, or family migrated here, first generation. Like they may not know. So if you don't mind sharing what those some of those experiences or things are that you've experienced, even though English is your second language, you're here, you're a citizen, you're treated or people share things with you that may not align to who you are. So if you don't mind sharing a little more about those lived experiences.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I have to keep it real with this question because the reality is there's a privilege that comes with being South Asian, right? There's a privilege that comes with it because of the stereotypes and the bias, and then there's also a negative piece that comes with it. And I think there's layers, right? We all have
Mhm.
these intersecting identities. It's not just what you look like, it's your faith, it's your whatever it is that makes you stand out. So I'm not oblivious to the privilege I have because of the stereotypes that are associated with South Asians, which a lot of times didn't apply necessarily to my situation because I think I've seen um, the extreme highs and lows in my life, right?
Mhm.
And not every immigrant that comes to this country is coming from a place of crisis or war or what have you. Like they're not coming here from that space, and I was not one of those families where I came from. A situation where my dad was very successful in our home country. He was at the federal level, and he worked for the federal government, and he was very successful in his career. So coming here, we had to start rock bottom,
Mm.
So it was
Mhm.
kind of like this high and low of just because that's just the experience. And I'm sure many people hear this about um, people who come from other countries is you just have to start fresh a lot of times because a lot of what um, made sense abroad or what worked there, it doesn't work here. You really, really do have to start fresh. So I
Mm.
think one of the challenges is definitely starting fresh. That's an
Yeah.
experience that I think I can say a lot of us across the board who've had this experience can say that we've felt.
Mhm.
But again, I'm not going to take away from the privilege and the bias and the stereotypes that come with it. But then it also, makes you that model minority where things are not always um, easy. And then you're also branded as like, you have it all and you know it all. And that's not the case because I've had to
Yeah.
work. I started
Yeah.
working when I was 14.
Mm.
14 years old. That's when I made
Mhm.
my first dollar. So, it wasn't working out somewhere. It was just, babysitting and all that. But I started working at 14 years old and I know that.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
think it's really recognizing that not everybody's experience is, we can't just label it as what we see it. But I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's
It
just kind
makes a
of,
lot of sense.
yeah, lots of layers to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense if you could, because some of the listeners may not know, um, stereotypes are generalizations about people, and
Mhm.
you know, it's a stereotype, it's a generalization, so it's not a fact behind it. And
Mhm.
you were sharing, there's positive and negative stereotypes that you've experienced. Would you mind sharing what those positive or negative or both experiences are for people that don't know?
Yeah, yeah. So, gosh, Dr. Branch, we are really going there, aren't we? The basement. That's what you're calling
We
it?
in
The
we in the
basement.
basement. That's where we at.
I thought we were gonna talk about the weather. No, the basement. So yeah, I think, you know, uh, definitely, I mean, there's layers to my
Mm.
experience, you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, being a woman, being South Asian, I'm Muslim, so my religion is also different. And I'm not somebody who is just gonna not, and I think there are also people who try to sort of overshadow some of those things about them because they don't want to appear whatever way because they know that this is what's happening. I think we're coming out of that, especially
Mhm.
after COVID,
Yeah.
and especially after the murder of George Floyd. Like, I think there's a lot of, coming to the reality and coming to our senses of what is the real experience of people in this
Yeah.
country. But I think, um, you know, we're, I don't know. I think the negative stereotypes is just being judged on not being part of the norm.
Yeah.
Um, that could be anything from, you know, being not being helped in certain places and not being overlooked for certain things,
Mhm.
having to definitely work harder just to prove myself in certain spaces. And then on the positive side of, the positive stereotypes is like, you must be smart. You must not have to work this hard for whatever, or you must be
Mm.
privileged because you whatever, because this is the stereotype about, certain communities. And it's like, no, actually, I do have to work hard, really, really hard.
Mm.
I have to really, really spend time trying to absorb and understand certain things. It's
Yeah.
not that easy. So I think it goes both ways. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. I really, really appreciate your authenticity, sharing your truth. This is the space for it. And for the listeners, oftentimes we're not aware. We're not aware of other people's lived experiences because we may be consumed by our own, or not even consider, or may not even know anyone from a different place or different country, or to be able to have these kind of conversations with. So I appreciate you sharing your truth and being in the basement with me. It's the basement is dark. It's scary. We don't really spend a lot of time in there. But on this show, we do, because all of us have a basement. All of us have a home, and that home is the person. The attic is our mind, and we spend a lot of time in that attic. It's nice. I mean, it's pristine. You can relax. It's a big screen TV. You got a wine bar. I mean, it's really nice in the attic. That's in our mind. That's where we spend a lot of time. The living
Mhm.
room is our present. This is where we are present. We can relax in the living room. Usually, we got our shoes and socks off. We rubbing our feet together. It's comfort. And then you have the basement. The basement is where those feelings, those emotions, that truth, that lived experience is. And sometimes we got to go down there to bring those things up. So I really appreciate you taking having courage to go there with me in real time. So I want to switch gears a moment. We can get out of the basement for a moment, because I'm curious to know your trajectory to get into the helping profession. Like, how did that happen? What started it? What inspired you to decide this is the direction that I want to go?
So, well, it's interesting that I'm a counselor, and then school, and then a school count. I'm still licensed. I still got my license, school counseling
Hmm.
license, and I feel like it's interesting that you're trained to try to help people with their careers and just kind of identifying what they want to do. Because I feel like for me, it was never. I think some people know. They know. They're like, ooh, that's what I'm going to be. They're like 5 years old, and they're like, this is what I'm going to be, and I'm
Yeah.
like, it was never like that for me, and
Mhm.
I am okay to,
Mm.
say that. I don't
Yeah.
think I just never felt like, "Ooh, this is going to be me." Like, I am just drawn to this particular field. People I think it was really, now me doing psychology. I actually have also have a minor in public health and minor in biology from my undergrad, and so I kind of had this interest in going into pharmacy, and so I tested that out for a few months, and I was like, nope, not for me, because it just felt so such like a cold environment, and it was just,
Mm.
so I knew, like, I mean, again, we're in we're in the healthcare profession, but we're not in that side of it with
Yeah.
counseling. So I felt like I just needed something that was just more in line with my spirit. And so I just did not do that. I tested it out and just really went into the practical environment. And I was like, this is not me. I'm not going to do this. And
Mm,
then just really, I think I can really credit my best friends for, really helping me sort this out, because we do have these long conversations. And when we get together, it's like no time has passed. We can sit there for hours and talk. And it was really my two of my best friends who came back home for some break or some weekend, and we were just sitting there talking. And I think this was like, what, 15 years ago, and we were just
mm,
talking and talking, and I'm like, I don't know what I want to do
yeah.
with psychology. And so what do I do? Because that's what I chose as my bachelor's. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. And so they're like, you know what, Amber, you are really, really great at listening. You're supportive, you're caring, you're kind. You should really check out, some counseling programs, because that's just so you. And I'm
Mm.
like, oh, so it's their fault. Because they turned me to, this, just this idea, this thought. So I started exploring, and I knew I wanted to get my um, graduate degree, because that is something that was definitely ingrained in me as a child. Education was very, very important to my father. He was the only person in his family to go to college. He came from a very remote village, but he was very successful. So
Mm,
he also had those very, highs and lows in his life. And
yeah.
so he really ingrained the idea of getting an education and definitely getting a graduate degree from, a younger age. So I was like, I know I want to go to grad school. And so
Mhm.
I looked into counseling, and it's really, sometimes others see you in a way that you don't see yourself, and they're like, you like to help people, and you are this and you're that, and you have these qualities, so you should really check out counseling programs. So that's where it all started. But I think, if I'm being honest with you, Dr. Branch, I can do that, right? So um, I feel like
Good.
this is different. This is different from that starting point of, it's not so much helping people, it's like walking with them. It looks very
Mm,
different from what people think, when, whoever listens to this, and if they're thinking about it.
yeah.
And I'm not teaching right now, but when I do teach, I say that to students too. I'm like, this is not like you just giving advice or you just helping whoever. And so I had to adjust to that too, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest. I had to
Yeah.
adjust to what it means to help people. So,
Tell
yeah.
us more about that, adjusting to helping people, 'cause it sounds like you had a definition at one point in time, and that definition has changed.
Yeah. Well, the whole advice thing, I really had to understand, how do you apply theories? How do you apply the skills of counseling into the space when you're with your clients? How do you do that? And how do you not just go out there and just go, um, hey, you should do, I think you should break up with so and so, or hey, I think you should probably just quit, or hey, I think you should, like, it's not, can't do that.
Yeah.
Th- right? That's
That
not
that's
counseling.
Right. So that
Yeah.
I love. I'm so glad you're talking about this, because that's the human side. That's the human side of all of us. We just want to give advice. We want to tell people what we do, what to do. We want to tell people what we think and what's best for them. That's the human side. That's most of us. As a therapist, we're trained not to do that. It's a skill set to develop to not give advice or tell people your thoughts or your opinion about things. And for the listeners who don't know, as a client counselor or counselor educator, our job is not to give advice, because if we did and it worked out, that client would always come to us for advice instead of making those decisions themselves. If it didn't work out, they're going to blame us. So
Mhm.
instead of us being responsible for either side, it's best that we don't even get involved as far as giving advice. So I'm glad you brought this up, because a lot of people don't know what we do as therapists. So I appreciate you clearing that up.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's something for me that I really had to adjust to, and I really had to learn how to bring myself into be authentically me
Mhm.
into the space because oh my god, I was so awkward. Like I was trained as a school counselor, but I was very awkward in the clinical setting. So I still remember
Mm.
doing um my my clinical sessions with clients, and it was not me. I felt like a
Mm.
robot,
Ooh.
and you know, and then that led to, wait a second, you got a whole lot of work you need to do. So I think for me, I became a much, much, much better counselor, practitioner, teacher after I did my own work. So
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh, ooh, let's take a moment. You listen, y'all getting hit in the head with a honey bun right now. Y'all need to know that. Okay. Amber's dropping gems. Make sure you get your journal, your Gator Scales journal. Write these concepts down, write these thoughts down, because I hope you're picking up the themes that Amber shared. Because the themes that I heard was related to choosing you, deciding to be yourself, removing these thoughts and beliefs of who you have to be and deciding who you're going to be, and just going against the grain, and instead of asking for permission, asking for forgiveness. That's what I heard. I don't know what y'all heard. So Amber, if you don't mind sharing, how did you go from that place of being, like you described, a robot, to discovering this doesn't work for me and I'm going to choose to be more authentic? How did you do that on top of what you just shared with us of how it is being, being different in this country and how you're treated differently, to get enough confidence and courage to say, F you, I'm doing it my way. So I'm curious, how did you get there?
Well, took a minute. It took a minute, and getting older helps. So, like the whole thing we were talking about, like being in the basement. And so, you know what? I don't mind being in the basement. And I think that's just part of getting older, right? So I think age
Mm,
has also been a huge factor in just me being okay. Like I am authentically me sitting in front of you right now. Like I don't have any reservations on, you know what? This is this is what it is. And I think but um I think the culture and society that we have set up here
mm,
as a nation, we are so focused on the individual aspect of everything and just trying to get through each thing um, on our own and just kind of really focused on not being as open or sharing, right? Like that's
mm,
a real struggle for a lot of people in this country, and that's why loneliness is such an epidemic, right? In this country, it's just such a huge issue. Is I think a lot of mental health also lends to that, but I think part of it is just navigating our day to day, just being so withdrawn from
mm.
and not being able to share and therefore not knowing um what's really going into the emotions and really going into that place where we really understand who we are. So unless we do that work in counseling or through some other avenue, it doesn't have to be counseling, but it has to be the healing has to happen. And especially if any of us who have experienced anything traumatic, if we don't come out of that or don't process it, um it's going to get in the way of helping
Absolutely.
anybody. It's gonna be a wall in that room.
Absolutely.
And you're gonna be putting a desk in between you and the other person. But you know what? That's just, you know, there's a wall, and that wall is there because you haven't dealt with the actual issues or whatever. So
Ooh, ooh, you dropping gems. I told y'all. I told you she was gonna hit you in the head with a honey bun. I hope y'all paying attention. So, as a therapist, now this is huge. This is huge. At the highest level, because you're at the highest level of academia, as a therapist, deciding, or even a therapist in training at the time, deciding to get a therapist and work with a therapist, and even now, how did you make that transition? Because a lot of people within this profession, we don't have to. It's not required. So you
mhm.
can go through this entire program as a master student, a doc student, and finish on the other side and never experience therapy for yourself. So it's not, it's choice based. We get to choose. How did you choose? Okay, I think it's time to go. I think it's time to see somebody, and not only just think it, but actually do it, and still doing it. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. Well, I think well, I think stress really signaled that it wasn't anything that was, explained by some other factor. So it's like, okay, how do I navigate the stress? and I think this works because I have a PhD in it, so let me just, and I didn't, I'll be honest too.
Mhm.
I never went to see a counselor until I got my PhD. So I
Mm.
have a PhD
Yeah. Yeah.
in something, and I've never gone to get counseling for myself. Should
That's
have done
huge.
that sooner.
That's huge. That's huge. That's
Should have done
exactly
that
what
sooner. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was mentioning. Like, it's not required. As a counselor in
Yeah.
training, you didn't have to. So, and we're not usually volunteering for that either. Even though we're doing it, practicing it, learning about it, teaching it, we're
Yeah.
not doing it. And you even still getting all the way to the finish line and finishing, you then decided. Some people never decide. So what
Yeah.
was that? What was that shift?
Yeah. Well, I think just a leap of faith. Like I know this works, obviously, because I have a PhD in it. So let me try. Let me test this out. And it worked. But it was tough because again, I think culture and who we are with the person who is our therapist, that makes a huge difference too, because a lot of times we feel that we have to show up to that space and you feel very vulnerable because you're like out here sharing all the things. So you want the person that you're going to understand that cultural aspect too. So there was a bit of resistance for me for sure. Like it took a
Mm,
minute. It took a minute for me to go, okay, this is a lot. Like, I don't know if I want to do this, but, and also because of the culture, because again, I come from a culture, and that's part of the reason why I still have a private practice because I've been able to really work with a lot of people, a lot of immigrants here, in central North Carolina who've come here from all over the world. I worked with clients from Central America, South America, from Eastern Europe, from Africa, from Asia, all over the world who are immigrants to Central North Carolina. And it's their experience of, ooh, I'm not supposed to talk about this in my culture. So I'm not supposed to because everything's hush hush. Like you're not supposed to
mhm,
sit there and talk about your thoughts and feelings and emotions with a stranger. Like that's your family stuff. Just bury it, pray it
mm,
away, pray about it,
mhm,
And that's why it was even hard for me coming from a culture like that because you don't do that.
mhm, mhm,
You have other ways you deal with it. Um, that piece, and then also really being in that space to provide a space where people feel like they can come to someone. They don't have to explain themselves. Like I
mhm.
think that layer of having to explain yourself, like I am, like your experience, that's tough.
Yeah, yeah,
So
mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow, wow. I appreciate you for sharing your truth and just being honest and authentic, which is exactly what you mentioned before, like allowing yourself to be authentic. And you had several barriers, you had several layers, you had several walls that you broke down and chose to broke down to become this version of you, which is it's 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 phenomenal. You know, a lot of people don't do that and they don't have a quarter of the barriers that you had to overcome just to get here to this space. So, how did you make the transition from a master's student or graduating to I'm gonna go further? You know, you mentioned, with your family and cultural, yeah, I can at least get a master's degree, but you didn't stop there. You said, I'm gonna go further and get my PhD. I'm gonna be Dr. Khan in these streets. So what what happened? What transition for you to decide I'm gonna keep going?
Yeah. I was very, very blessed. I had the best experience at North Carolina A&T as a master's student. I had a absolutely amazing experience. And I do appreciate the HBCU environment for really cultivating and creating a sense of community that I had not felt before in any educational institution. So I really, really had a phenomenal experience as a master's level student and had the best professors. And so many of them, when I finished my program, so many of them were like, you're not done. You need to go. You need
Mm,
to go further. There's
mm,
so much more that you need to do. Just go a little bit farther in this field. So I believe the mentorship that I received after my master's program was
mhm.
very, very pivotal in staying in touch with the faculty. And
Yeah.
and during my master's program, I was trying to make up for some of the things that I did not do during undergrad. During undergrad, I worked 2 jobs. There was, like, a lot of life things that I was dealing with in undergrad, so I worked 2 jobs. I would go on campus, come right back out, get in my car, just leave.
Mm,
And during my master's program, I was very involved. I was in student government. I was doing all kinds of things and just really loving what I was doing as a
mm,
student. And I will say A&T made me great. Like, I am so
mm,
grateful for all that master's experience really poured into who I am as a professional. And I
mm,
just really found, my confidence, my lots of nurturing and lots of just it was a great experience. So that was a really easy decision for me to make at that moment. It was like, okay, let's go. Let's keep
mhm.
going.
Yeah.
So that I'm grateful for that because I don't know if, everybody gets that level of just that support and encouragement. So
Mm,
yeah.
mm.
Yeah.
So curious, what made you decide to go to HBCU? And for the listeners who don't know, HBCU is a historically black colleges and universities. So you could have went anywhere, but you decided to go to HBCU. What's the story behind that?
So I was, well, I've been on A&T's campus as a child. My dad actually came to this country through this program with the Department of State and with our country, and it was just like this collaboration. So he came here um, as a federal employee to get his master's at North Carolina A&T. So
Mm,
I was a child on that campus. Like that was like one of the first places I went to when I came to North Carolina. So um and of course my dad always talked so highly about what a great school it was and we were there and so I always knew A&T is a
mm,
great school and then it's in my hometown. And so and it was a great experience like when I did the interview for my master's program it was really great. It was the first program that I actually applied to, and then I went to the interview, felt like this clicks, like this just
mm,
feels right.
mhm.
And it was great. It just worked out. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I love it. I love it. So transitioning to the doc program, if you could share with us that transition and you deciding, because from my experience in the doc program, I felt very similar to you of, you're getting this PhD to work as a professor. You're getting this PhD to work in academia, work for 20, 30 years, retire, get a gold watch, and call it a day. I was taught the same thing you were, and that didn't work for you. And you decided like I can use these transferable skills to do something else. How did you make that transition and get involved in the doc program?
so moving you mean moving away from academia or just going
No,
into the
like
program even
going
more?
going into the program, what school did you go to? How did you make the transition from a master's student into a doc student? And then being a doc student where you were told all these different things and you chose to do the complete opposite.
Right. Right, I know. Unconventional and
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I think, I think I went into it again just from that encouragement, that mentorship, like you should do your doc program. I also did my doc program at A&T. So I decided to stay at the same institution and um it was, I think a it was tough. I think every doc program out there, we would be lying if any of us said it's not tough. It's tough. It's challenging.
Mm,
There's some bumps. So that it just didn't it was just not my calling. When I finished, it was
mm,
just not, aligning with what I wanted to do
yeah.
then,
Yeah.
5 years ago. But now, where I am now,
Hmm.
I love teaching. I love
Yeah.
it. It's been and then the students have really reassured me in that too. They've really reassured me in what I'm bringing into the space. Because
Mm,
of I think it just aligns. It goes back to that whole working on yourself because
yeah.
you work on yourself, everything else really also aligns. So just in that moment, when I
Yeah.
finished, I wasn't quite ready to go into academia. I just didn't align. But now, um, I love teaching. I love it,
Yeah.
and I love when I'm with our fellows because that
Hmm.
really allows me this brings out this energy that you get
Yeah.
in the classroom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh
yeah.
man, I love it. I love it. Well, when you're ready to get back into the classroom full time, you let me know. And anyway, I can make some magic happen. And for the listeners, I know y'all can make some magic happen. This is a great counselor educator. This is one of those professors that changes the lives of students. You're doing it already. It's just being in certain environments where you can do it even more. So when you're ready, you let me know. Let the listeners know. We're gonna put you on. It's gonna happen.
Oh,
So next piece, before we get out of here, I got a few rapid fire questions for you. So I'm curious to know, we're curious to know, what would you say is your most proudest moment or accomplishment?
oh wow. Um, whew, wow. That is a big question, I think. Yeah.
We back in the basement. As you can see, this show, we try we kind of just go all through your house. We all in your business, and that's what makes the show so great.
Yeah, yeah. I think it goes back to the education piece because it's it was it was definitely part of what I was taught growing up just to value education. So it definitely has to do with um just being able to get to this point with my
Mm,
education and get to where I am. That has been my, you know, my proudest accomplishment and just to um be able to share kind of the height of that with my dad, before he
mm,
passed last year. He was just so proud of all the different ways that I could use, the education and how it opens doors because we know it's not just about teaching. We know it's not just about whatever. There's so much value and the abundance of opportunity that comes with it.
mm.
There's just so much more than just one thing that
Yeah.
education does for you. So um, I would say it's definitely that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I love it. I love it. And thank you. My condolences to you and your family. You losing your father last year and having this proud moment that he saw it. He saw Dr. Khan, which is a big deal. So thank you for sharing that moment with us. Um, you've been all over. You've seen a lot of different things. You work with a lot of different people. I'm curious to know, out of all these years, what would you say you've learned about people?
Oh my goodness, Dr. Branch.
Are we back in the basement again? I'm
Where do
sorry.
I start? No, where do I start? Um, well, whew, oh my, I have so much to say about this.
We got time. We got time.
I have so much to say. Well, I'll start with me and how I come into spaces, no matter
Okay.
what. And
This is good.
this is
Okay.
driven by no matter what I encounter, because ooh, yes, I have encountered some difficult things in my
Mm.
life.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think difficult moments, difficult situations, and just having to navigate that. But
Mhm.
I am going to just talk about what I do.
I love it.
Do I lose my patience? Yes, we all do. But
Mhm.
how I show up. And this is driven by culture. This is driven by faith. This is driven by just, again, a more healed person than I was like, several years ago. Is
Mhm.
just coming into the space with a community mindset. I like to come into a space. Yes, I do put others before me in terms of how
Mhm.
are you feeling, how are you doing, just kind of making them comfortable.
Mm.
But that's driven, again, by my faith. It's driven by
Mhm.
my culture. It's like make looking out. It's really looking out for who you are interacting with, and I believe that changes not just your own experience, but it changes the experience of the person you're interacting with because you don't even know it, but you might have been the only one that day to, really have that sort of interaction with them. So, but that was intention. That was very, very intentional for me. That was a switch for me. You know, where I decided that that is how I'm going to approach relationships with
Mm.
people.
Mm.
Not come in selfishly, like, what can I get out of this?
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that's not how I approach interactions with people. My approach is, um, are we all okay? How you doing? Checking
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
That's very, very, very important to me on a personal level, and it has changed everything.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Oh man, this is so good. This is so good. Get your scales journal, write these notes, write these notes. Next question. You that's related to people and I love how you you pivot. You created a pivot. Like, let me share how I show up. Ooh, ooh, dropping gems. So I'm curious, what would you say you've learned about yourself after all these years?
Um, well, okay. Okay. I will say this. I have reflected on this a lot. The self-sabotage, right? I think
Mm,
there's a I told you about intention and how we show up and how we live our life and how we do things in our life. So intention is very important to me. It's something that I think about often when I am thinking about how I move about. I'm not perfect, but I do reflect on how I move about in the world. So I think if it's important for me not to show up in a kind of just just full of myself. Like that's not
yeah.
okay with me. Like I don't want to be a narcissist to show up in this situation. Like no, like it's but you have to love yourself. You have to love
Mm,
yourself. That's very 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 important. And you cannot self sabotage. You cannot show up into a space and say I don't deserve this or I'm not good enough for this or that, moment of am I really worthy? Is this, just whatever those intrusive thoughts are that get
yeah.
in the way of, um, just self sabotage, because
Mhm.
that alone will destroy so many things in your life, so many moments, so many opportunities. Um, yes, that's what I've learned about myself. I'm like, dang, girl, you showed up and you self sabotage yourself.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Mm,
So it's like the moment of or just finding the balance. Like
yeah.
you can't show up like again, I don't want to be a narcissist, but I also don't want to be just on the complete opposite of that. So
Yeah.
what I've learned is it's a constant conversation with me
Ooh.
to bring myself to the core, like,
Yes.
you know.
Yes, yes. Well, you're describing the podcast perfectly. You're describing who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. And there's a constant conversation between all three of those individuals. Who you were, I ain't got room for you no more. We're not self-sabotaging. That's what you're telling. That's what your current self is telling your old self. And your better self, your healthier self is, we don't even talk about self-sabotage because it's not even a topic of conversation.
Mhm.
We're showing up as us. Look at you in the head with a honey bun. Next question. What's a word, phrase, memory, or moment that has stuck with you personally or professionally?
Ooh, wow. Okay. Oh man, that's hard. Um, that's hard. I think moments with loved ones. I do believe what we have. I know that sounds so cheesy, like on a bumper sticker, but it's true. It's true. It's like um these moments are so limited. Like this moment that we have right now is so 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 limited. It's so temporary, and
Mm,
so I think the moments that really stick with me are the moments really truly with my family, and where I'm most at peace is when I'm with my family. It's just like
mm,
okay, like I'm really genuinely just like I just zone out. I'm like at peace.
yeah.
I'm not
Mm,
like on edge and just, have anxiety, none of that. Like when I'm with
mm,
my family, I'm like, you know what? I am so so lucky and so grateful because this is heaven. I think
mm.
I've really really had to learn, and I will do a podcast on this at some point. Maybe not a podcast, a video. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
feel like there's a moment of really, really, really processing what's been a huge part of my experience over the past few years is just grief and
Yeah.
really overcoming loss, not just the loss of my dad, but so many other family members, and really recognizing the moment that we have in front of us. It's you don't even know it. Some of these moments, you're in heaven. Like you don't even know
Mm,
it.
yeah.
It's like the most beautiful moment you have in front of you, and you don't even know it. Yeah.
I love it. Oh, Dr. Khan, thank you for all of this. All of this. You're just constantly giving of yourself, and I'm thankful for it because a lot of people in your position don't do this, and this is why the podcast is so needed and necessary. Sometimes, and this is specifically for all of you listening, sometimes we get caught up in people's credentials, you know, the stories we've heard, the things that we see, and we don't know who they are. And this podcast is to help all of us get to see people for who they are, and that's people. All of us. If we strip everything away, the money, the title, the prestige, what you have is a person, and a person that has a lived experience and a story that we don't often get to hear. So this podcast gives us an opportunity to hear. So with that, we're gonna go one more step further in that basement. An interesting fact about Dr. Khan that nobody knows, or there's not a lot of people that know that you're open to share with us. What would it be?
Um, oh Lord. I think I've shared quite a bit here. No.
If you had enough, it's okay. If you had
No, no,
enough.
no, 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 no. No, no. I'm trying to think of something, something interesting. I don't know. I think I've shared a lot of sort of I don't know what's something that people don't know.
So here's another
Um,
one. Let's
yeah.
let's 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 shift this because you like to shift, you like to pivot just like I do. Let's shift it. What's something that people wouldn't believe about Dr. Khan?
I mean,
Yep, that's it.
pretty
Go with
tough. I'm pretty tough. I think but it could go either way. I think it
okay.
could go either way. I believe people may perceive me as that. They may perceive me as like, she's pretty whatever, tough, and then others might be like, nope, she's just soft spoken, whatever. But I think people don't realize that it takes a lot to knock me down. I'm pretty tough, so I fight
Okay.
back. So
I love it. I love it. I'm glad I never had to fight with Dr. Khan. I'm glad I never had to fight because it sounded like I would take a L. So, last thing is not even a question for you, but it's your opportunity to impact the listeners. And how I perceive us to make impact is by giving of something. And that something I consider to be life work. So, life work is similar to homework, but homework, you take it home, you do it, you turn it back in, you never remember it again. Life work, you take it home, you do it, your life will change. So, Dr. Khan, if you don't mind sharing with the listeners a keepsake to the audience, something that you would share with them that could be considered life work, something for them to do that could possibly change their lives.
I, I think we touched on it a couple of things, during this hour. One of those is just working on ourselves, right? And just not being afraid to do that. So I would definitely encourage people to take that step, and we're all a work in progress. So definitely make sure that you take those steps, and also know what, and I'll sound very much like a counselor when I say this, know how much support is really truly out there, even in the type of environment that we're in. Know that there is so much out there. You just have to be brave enough to ask for it.
So it sounds like with this life work that you're offering, it's an opportunity for all of you as listeners to do something you've never done before and consider you. That's what Dr. Khan is talking about, and I love that you shared your story. As I mentioned, you have an incredible story, and we're just getting a lot of the pieces around it, but it's so much depth to it, and I appreciate all that you shared. I appreciate you joining us today and just being who you are authentically. So, if people want to connect with you, if they want to reach out, if they want to find out about NBCC, if they want to learn about you or North Carolina A&T, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can contact me through NBCC. They can reach out through our website, at nbccf.org, or and you can find all of our information on there. So that's a good way to stay in touch. And yeah, and I appreciate you, Dr. Branch. You are um, just an incredible leader, professional, human being, just so
Mm.
genuine. And that is something that has been conveyed through just your interaction with everyone that you come across. so, so
I
yeah.
I greatly appreciate the love. I receive my flowers. I really do. I'm glad we both can give and receive flowers. It's a beautiful thing. And I just want to share and spread more love, more joy, more life, more humanism, especially within our profession. Yes, this is the helping profession, but there's a lot of helping professionals who need help. And to me, this podcast is that introduction of let's look at me, let's look at us for a moment. So I appreciate you sharing your truth, being authentic, being present, being available, and making it happen.
Yeah, it
So
was great.
good to hear. Good to hear. So this concludes another phenomenal episode of the Three Parallels podcast with your host, Dr. Jason Branch, where we discover who we were, who we are, who we're becoming. You got a lot of information today. Don't leave it here. Don't leave it on the podcast. Don't leave it in your ears. Share the information. Share the professionalism. Share the information that can be transformative. If it impacts you, it can impact someone else. Share it with that person. Much love to you all. Have a great day, night, week, month, or morning, or life. Peace.